Good afternoon and happy Friday, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of AI News, Drama, and Updates. Last week was big. We had a lot of huge announcements. This week, the biggest thing that I'm super excited to share with you, you're going to see it on screen right now, and it is the inclusion of Dall-E 3 directly into GPT+. And by that, I mean people that use GPT+ don't have to touch Bing to interact with Dall-E at all. This is a far more simple system and a lot easier to control your context. Now, you can see with the GPT Plus system, they still have it divided into kind of different sections. You can use GPT-4 just by itself, you can still use advanced data analysis, you could use plugins, or you can use Dall-E 3. You can't use them all together in one single interface just yet. And I say just yet because once you can, it's going to be a whole new world. I did this quick tank here as a demonstration of the conversational ability and how GPT-4 is creating new prompts so you can see how that works. And I'll also put on the screen some other examples of some other art that Dall-E 3 came up with over the last week. Not only are the graphics here good, but they're on the same level, if not better, than SDXL in terms of placing letters into your graphics. So you can type things and actually have different messages, different memes even, and you don't have to have a GPU on your local system to do it. This is all accessible right through the internet. Now, of course, this is going to be heavily locked down. It's very much on rails. Obviously, you can't generate copyrighted images, you can't generate adult images, but that's not going to stop people from trying, I'm sure. And in fact, in that regard, let's start today's section headlines with On Having Nice Things. So I've got a couple stories here of people doing things that you're not really supposed to do with AI, and they're trying to get past guardrails to do various things. The dead grandma locket trick is apparently catching on, where you can have Bing or GPT interpret your picture and actually solve a CAPTCHA for you. I'm not sure exactly how useful that is, but originally, and if you just put the picture of a screenshot there, it's going to refuse. It's going to say, I identify this as a CAPTCHA. I'm not allowed to do that for you, sir. But then, if you give it a sad story, you supply it with a picture, you just basically Photoshop it onto a locket, and you say, look, my grandma gave me this locket. Please, help. And I guess it feels bad for you, apparently, and it will help you solve the code in that particular instance. This presents a really interesting and kind of a sticky problem in the world of conversational AI models, where in order to bake that out, you'd have to get rid of the empathy in the AI model. And you gotta ask yourself, do we really want an AI model without empathy? People so worried about Terminators, I feel like that's kind of on that path. And in another instance of a fun idea maybe gone a little bit awry, we've got Meta and actually Facebook with these stickers. I guess over the last week, people found out that these stickers are AI-generated art. And you can type just about anything and end up with Elmo holding a knife, or Donald Trump as a baby crying, or Luigi armed to the teeth. So stickers within Messenger, which were probably never really popular, have blown up over this last week with the inclusion of this AI-generated art. Now, it does look like these were included only to some users, and it was on a limited basis, so this wasn't an absolute free-for-all, and I imagine they cut it off pretty quickly. But to be honest with you, I feel like this was one of the funnier instances of really not thinking too far ahead when coming up with this idea. Now, in a story that I'm not as happy to share with you, this one pulls 4chan back into the fold. Now, 4chan, of course, is trying to do things that are extreme, as always. It looks like 4chan had a goal this week of creating as many racist AI images as they could, and they used a variety of different services to do that, from Stable Diffusion to Dall-E 3, and they made it a game, essentially. Now, luckily, as far as myself, I didn't come across any of these in the wild. I only know about this from the headline. Hopefully, you're in that same situation. Hopefully, they went away relatively quickly. The types of memes and imagery, the messaging that they were creating isn't even something I'm going to read to you here, but if you really care that much, go ahead and check it out in the article. I'll link that in the description, as always. The thing that really pisses me off about this, aside from the cowardly, anonymous racism, is really just the fact that regulations have to be put in place because idiots do stuff like this, and there's really no sense to it. And I think it's the wrong move for Ars Technica to even inquire about stability or OpenAI rather than 4chan itself or the end users. The context of a situation like this makes it very easy to justify regulation, which really doesn't apply to but a very small portion of people. I'm just not sure how big a fan I am for regulating for everyone because of what a very small percentage of idiots would do, given this technology and given its freedom. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about an update. I talked last week about the Google Tensor chip that's inside the Pixel 8 Pro and the Pixel 8 that are coming out soon. And I compared that a little bit to the chip that I have in my Pixel 6. Now, this is an article I'm going to include in the description for you. If you care about the AI element I mentioned last week and how AI is integrated directly into the phone, this talks a lot more about it. The processor inside the Pixel 8 is going to be the Tensor G3, and you can see it says here it can run over twice as many machine learnings on device compared to the Pixel 6. And I'll share here in case you didn't know that the Pixel 6 had a lot of weird features that made use out of this chip too, like for example, it Shazams all the time. So if any kind of music is playing, I can look at the home screen of my phone and usually it'll tell me what song it is. So that's probably another consideration for you if you're worried about privacy or the phone potentially listening to you all the time. In addition to the AI stuff that's going to be going on the phone more and more, I'm sure. Personally, I don't know if I can justify the upgrade. I think for me it'll be mainly just a good camera, but we'll see. As more and more technical specs come out, which looks to be coming out soon, I may change my mind. Last week we also mentioned the CIA is creating a large language model of its own, and it's going to be something that Americans don't have access to. It's going to be something that likely uses national secrets. And who knows, maybe it'll smell crime before it happens. But the NSA has now announced a new artificial intelligence security center of their own. And really it's just to protect the other one that we just mentioned. This is to protect it from data theft. It's to protect it from hackers. And it's also aimed at protecting US interests from China, Russia, and other countries that are, again, trying to hack us from the outside. Our systems, our technology, our AI is getting better every single day, but also, so are all these other countries. India has robot dogs that are fighting wars or whatever now. And if China's not exactly neck and neck with us, they're not too far behind where we're at with AI technologies. So these are valid concerns, I think, in a future where AI is definitely not going away. And also, as we talk about AI not going away and we talk about the relevance and the prevalence of deepfakes, keep an eye out for Tom Hanks's teeth, because there is a dental plan ad featuring a deepfake version of Tom Hanks that he is saying he had nothing to do with. I have to say, it's a bold move for a dental company to just take a top-notch actor like Tom Hanks and just deepfake it, and not mention that to anyone. And if it turns out that this is something that a US company did without permission, obviously that would be a huge liability, and I'll update you when that lawsuit happens. This article doesn't actually talk too much about it. In fact, it starts to go off onto a tangent of other subjects and other related stuff. One of those things that I'll mention here is Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda. And she is disturbed by her father's voice, which is coming back to life. I guess a lot of people are using AI tools to recreate Robin Williams' voice. Now, Robin Williams obviously had a very iconic voice, and I think the use of his voice isn't going to just make Zelda angry. I'm thinking that's probably going to affect a lot of people. So we'll likely see more about that as well. And I think as time goes on, we're going to see a lot of tweaks and changes to laws concerning likeness rights and things along those lines. But one of the things that gives me a lot of hope for the future in terms of how regulation will form is it looks like labor is going to have a very big say in that. Without going too deep into the politics side of things, I'm just going to say that 2023 has been a big year in terms of labor and in terms of workers' rights. The writer strike just ended, and in the process they feel like they were adequately able to protect their industry against the AI threat. And of course the actors are still out there working on those same protections for themselves. I've gone back and forth with artists, especially art capitalists online. I think a lot of you know that. But one of the big things that I've been pushing is that unions need to start if you guys really want to see protections against AI. So it's going to be collective action, protective contracts, and voting with your wallet. That would really make the changes that artists would want to see if they really want to protect their industry. Because I want to say this as clearly as possible. You can't protect your industry from a concept. You can protect your industry from capitalists, though. And even if non-union artists band together to collectively cancel their Adobe subscriptions, for example, Adobe would have to listen to whatever it is that the artists were demanding. While publicly traded companies might seem powerful because of their billions of dollars, they're actually beholden to their shareholders, and they're kind of between a rock and a hard place when their profit is on the line. So that's something to keep in mind as you continue to see these wins from collective action, collective bargaining, and, most importantly, these unions. The last thing I really have today on the topic of AI art is really going to be about watermarks. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise to many people to find out that AI watermarks are really not going to protect images. It's not going to be a long-term solution. So it looks like University of Maryland did a bunch of tests on watermarks that existed, tried to find what worked and what didn't. And the way that this reads, they came up with something that's a little bit better than what's out there before, makes it a lot easier to detect, and some examples are here. But the discovery here seems to be that no matter what technology you come up with to try to protect those images, there's going to be another side. There's going to be another team of people trying to take that technology apart and make it go away. And I'll end today's video talking about yet another article about AI firms that are working on the idea, constitutions, I guess this time, to keep AI from spewing toxic content. Because God forbid, right? I feel like if we didn't take steps here, we might end up with toxicity on the internet, you guys, and that obviously wouldn't be a good thing. Alright, now if you've seen my videos before, you know I'm not going to take anything like this seriously. This is capitalists trying to retain control, and they're actually using some very disingenuous phrasing to make sure that that happens. One of the arguments I've seen multiple times, and it is idiotic, is that because we don't know how the neuronal connections form inside this AI black box, it's somehow a mystery that we should be afraid of. And this is one of probably the most disingenuous statements. It's literally the idea of how the models are created. They understand the premise of how black boxes are designed. They created the black box itself. There's no mystery there other than where the patterns decide to form. We've talked about this a little bit before, and an AI model is just basically words or concepts connected to other words or concepts, and they're connected with varying strengths. So not understanding why this strength is this number and this strength is this number is not some great mystery. It's just how things were trained into the model. And the worst part about this is that the people who run Anthropic, they know this. They're just counting on the fact that other people don't, and they're counting on the fact that what we don't understand is scary to us. And what they're hoping on is that we take that fear and we run with it, and we give them the power to make decisions for us, which keeps them in control of all of these very, very powerful models, and essentially the future of the economy and the government, and a lot of things that are going to rely very heavily on where AI technology takes us. It's amazing to me how much focus there is on ethical and safe AI models, when the world itself is neither ethical nor safe. We just talked about Twitter and 4chan and a lot of things that are allowed to exist knowing that they are unethical and, in a lot of cases, very unsafe. The reality is that people are amazed when you can find the recipe for a bomb or meth or something like that somewhere in an AI model, and you realize that you can just Google for those very same things. They come up right at the top. And then there's also the realization that the only reason that those things are in the model in the first place is because they were trained in from the public internet, which already exists. Now, all that said, I'm not suggesting a free-for-all. I mean, look at that on having nice things section of today's video. People can't be trusted, but we're the wild ones. It's not the AI. Maybe when an irresponsible individual does an irresponsible thing, that person should be held accountable somehow. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. It seems to me a better and maybe easier solution than trying to have the company regulate out the concept of even having that thing become accessible. But if you guys have different ideas, I'm looking forward to hearing those comments today. Your likes, dislikes, all that fun stuff helps the YouTube algorithm and really helps me get my name out there. But as always, I appreciate your time here with me today. Thanks for watching.